Hey there. Before we get to the episode, I just want to make one quick announcement. Since this is one of the first 3 episodes in our launch, we will be running a giveaway contest. We will be giving away one $20 Amazon gift card, one physical copy of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and we will also be giving away a perfect goal setting plan PDF for anybody who enters with their email address. It's super easy to enter to win. All you have to do is head over to studentbuiltstartups.com/giveaway, and you will be taken to our page on our website where the giveaway is located, and there are multiple ways you can enter, such as liking our Facebook page, joining our email list, sharing the contest with a friend, and many other options. This contest is how we're going to spread the word about the Student Built Startups podcast, and the contest is only open for 10 days after this episode has launched. One more time, head over to studentbuiltstartups.com/giveaway, and I'll put the link in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoy the episode. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Student Built Startups podcast. Episode 2, Building Professional Relationships and Getting Your First Clients. I'm your host, Cameron Stone, entrepreneur and student at UMD. I interview student entrepreneurs to share their stories and business strategies. Today's guest will talk about health, fitness, building professional relationships, and how to get your first clients. He brings a ton of energy, and he's definitely one of the best personal trainers that I know. He will be sharing his story and how his education has played a role in it. I encourage you to go check out BP HealthxFitness.com to find out more about him and his business. I'm excited to introduce you all to Blake Peters. All right, Blake, happy to have you on the show. I'll have you start off by sharing one crazy but true fact about yourself.
Okay, so it feels like all of my stuff always relates around like exercise. At least I think it's crazy. I've had this come up a couple of times, like from like just clients and things like that. That I don't know. They might think that I do like some like crazy stuff. I don't know if I put that vibe out there, but my thing that I can come up with is that I've done 14,000 foot elevation mountains in Colorado. So there is like more than 50 of them out there, and I have a goal to do all of them, or at least like attempt them. There's some like people die on some of those, so like they're like some are actually pretty dangerous. So I mean, I'm not like my goal isn't to like summit all of them and like risk my life, but yeah, there's like doing 2 of them I think is like kind of like a crazy thing. It was really fun. Like you definitely feel like the altitude and you feel a little loopy up there. But it's so much fun, and then just like being up that high, and like once you get done hiking, like both of them took like 6 hours round trip. It was usually, I think the first one I did was like 4 hours up and then 2 hours down, because on the way down you got the mountain just pushing you down. Yeah. So you end up going faster, or you just want to get back to the car and be off your feet. Either one of those, kind of like a marathon. But yeah, that is crazy. I definitely want to get out to Colorado and do more of those.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy, and that's an ambitious goal you have.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, good luck with that. So I'll have you start off by talking about some of the main stuff that we're going to get going into. So tell the audience a little bit about your education.
Yeah, so I like graduated high school in 2013. I kind of had been lifting and taking some like anatomy and kinesiology because I wanted to take a fitness route of things. So I was playing around with that. I kind of knew, just looking at the degrees, exercise science was the route I wanted to go. So I went to UMD. That's how I got stationed in Duluth here. I graduated from UMD with exercise science and minor in psych in 2017. I along the way kind of got personal trainer certified in 2015. So I was able to work at the outdoor recreational sports and outdoor program, RSOP, which was nice because it was kind of like you get your clients and it's really a chill way of making a little bit of money and being a student trainer. And it was just like a really fun way to like be like, okay, this is like a little tester on my career, and I loved it. And it kind of just really set me up for starting off, in the field.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any sort of like specialties that you like to kind of revolve around?
Yeah. So, back then, like, when you first start out, it's just literally doing it. Like, when you're 21, you start off and you're like, there's so many options. Like, there's so many exercises that you do, but then you're also looking at like your clients and you're like, yeah, you got to like take yourself back a notch and try not to portray what you do onto them. But I think that's also part of the thing that people like about me is like, I can take what I do and put it on like as a way to them. So it was a lot of just like narrowing down base level stuff, knowing your client right off the bat, and then like being like, okay, this is like the weights that they can handle. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. So it was a lot of like trial and error and like uncomfortableness. Like you're like, like most sessions were like brand new. Like every time it was just like, so we'll see how they react to this. And then, then eventually, you work with them for 6 months, a year. And then you're like, holy crap, where'd the time go? Like, and then you just get into a routine. And now, it doesn't take me months to figure out my client. It's like, oh, you can kind of interrelate them. And so it was, it's kind of that first, just like shaking off the nerves and like getting that initial experience of working one-on-one with people. I also had the opportunity of like when I was working at a group home at that time, and actually going back there soon, just because vulnerable adults are one of the important populations that I kind of been targeting, especially in my business. And I had the opportunity to work with one, like, right as I first started off, I think my third client was a vulnerable adult. And so he was in a wheelchair. And he would use me as like a walker, which was kind of fun, grab one of my forearms. And I was like, I'm getting a little bicep work out of this. He's like walking, and it was just fun because like we just joke around, and it was really cool because, students, we'd work out in the student gym and do machines and stuff. And he went from like 10 pounds on the lat pull down from, not doing anything to like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And getting out of the machines and in the machines was probably the coolest thing, because it was just like, you've seen all these progressions, and, you got students watching that don't get to see this type of thing. And then for me, it was kind of normal because, I was around vulnerable adults. So I was just kind of like, yeah, these are like, special people that like do everything everybody else does with some limitation. So it was really cool to be able to like have those experiences like right off the bat. And it really just kind of reinstilled like, this is what you want to do,
So how has your education played a role in you starting your business?
Yeah, so it was the building blocks that essentially I needed to be a professional and, work my way to being, an expert in the field. And like, as I get that experience, being able to, go to that level. But, it's at the stage for, you get to see a little bit of like what it looks like to be a physical therapist or go that route. You get a little bit of like what it looks like to work in a clinical setting, like with heart issues, things like that. I was able to kind of pick and choose the routes that I wanted to go off of the classes that I was given. So it really kind of like, you get to see the paths that you can take. And I was like, yeah, those are things that I don't want to do. I want to be in like the preventative measure. I don't want to be fixing people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure there, but at the same time, I'm like, I just really like working with like, the basic equipment that people can do, or no equipment at all. I really kind of actually end up going in and doing my own, educational piece. It's like, I got TRX certified and diabetes prevention certified with the Y. I'm working on my nutrition certification. So I kind of, having a little bit of taste of all these things, it was like, well, what can I do to, help this population, or what can I do to strengthen this area that I'm lacking in my training. And then clients will help you too with that, is, asking you nutrition questions or asking you questions about specific areas of the body. And you're like, oh, like I realized I didn't know very much about like the hip area. I was like, oh yeah, I'm good with like squats, bench, deadlift. You're using, hip muscles kind of, but you're not necessarily getting into the hip abduction and adduction and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's cool how kind of a broad education helps you kind of narrow down the path that you want to go down.
Yep.
So what was your biggest fear about starting your own business when you were first starting?
Yeah, I think just, income.
Okay.
Where the money is going to come from, which, obviously you need money to live. Like my biggest thing was like, how am I going to pay for food? Like if I'm not working a part-time job, which now, kind of working, a couple things just to do, while I'm getting myself off the ground. Cause when you first start too, like you got to remember that there's business expenses. And if you aren't servicing clients all the time, or if then, you get a couple clients and then like, they're like, I'm going to be on vacation or something. You're like, yeah. What? Like, no, you're not. Like, but, you just you get used to like, okay, like this is kind of what's going to happen. Resources are scarce. So you just kind of gotta, I'd just say do it, you know what I mean? And not going to be perfect. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. That's just like the biggest challenge, is get over that. And I'd say educating yourself in that, like, I don't know anything about accounting. Like I don't have any sort of business background. So I luckily had people that, that had businesses that were like, this is the person that you talk to. This is that person that you talk to, and go see him. And that was that. And then I would say like, being able to like charge what you want then, so you're not limited under somebody else to charge what you want to make money. And you can work with people on that. Like I've charged people $50 an hour, and then I've charged people $25 or $30 an hour, just because I was like, well, for one, kind of do anything for money at the first start, which is fine. But at the same time, it was like, I trained an MMA guy, and like, I mean, he's, he's younger than me. I'm like, he doesn't have resources to pay me like $50 an hour. But at the same time, like, I'm like, this is somebody that I can help. And that might not have been somebody I could help, in a scenario where I didn't have my own insurance. I didn't have my own place to be like, yeah, let's train and use these weights. So it, it allowed us to kind of get together. It also kind of just, allows you to make relationships in a different way, which is super rewarding, and probably the most rewarding part that makes up for the, the money situation. Like, even if you aren't, I wouldn't say money is the everything, and it should not be the everything in it, because I think the people is the most important part of that process of, starting your business. And, because that's essentially what it is you're servicing people. And once you can think about that and not like, because obviously you got to sell them at some point, but once you think of them as, like somebody that is like, you can help, then it kind of, I feel like, helps you think of the sale in a maybe like a more healthy way, because you don't want to over push the money situation, because people can decline that too. Luckily I haven't had an issue with like wanting refund or anything. I don't know how to approach that situation, but that is a real possibility, is unhappy people, which I've been lucky to not have.
One thing you said that I really liked was that you don't have to know everything about starting a business. You don't have to be a jack of all trades. As long as you have connections with people that can help you in certain areas, you're able to kind of get off your feet by using those connections.
Yep. And you got to think of the people around you too. Like, it was kind of funny because, like, obviously, naturally, assuming that you have a good relationship with your parents, like, that's kind of the first person that you go to. Like, so it was just kind of funny. I just kind of was like, hey, I'm starting my own business. Can I get some money? I mean, I said it maybe a little bit better than that, but like, I mean, essentially there was no, it was just like, it was just a straight, blunt, like, question. And like, and they're like, oh, sure. how much, like, and it was just like, all right, like, this is what I need. Yeah, I did research of like with equipment and things like that, and like kind of told them like what I'd been working on, and that I wasn't just like, just playing around with the idea. Like I was serious, and they saw that. And so, obviously there, and then anybody, that like, your friend, like anybody that your friends or that you, like I personal trained a business professor. So he was kind of obviously a go-to for me. That was just like, okay, what's like block one with the first things that I need to focus on? Then what's block two? And, just meeting up with people, and putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just like, something that is important to just look at those people.
Yeah, for sure. Share a little bit with the audience, kind of what your business looks like.
First things first is like I operate out of like a little spot in Hermantown called 218 Gym. I pay like a monthly membership fee there, and I have my equipment. So a lot of strength training equipment, squat racks, barbells. But it is also a gym that there's like I call it semi-private. They've always been a huge blessing to me because I had my equipment in a place that somebody I knew personally before, that they had a cheerleading business, and it definitely wasn't the right like setup for me, just because the space was so limited. So it was kind of funny because like it was this gym for having to just be like behind the other gym, and I had a newspaper ad, and this person found me, and they just brought me over. They're like, we have a gym. And I look in, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, and it was just kind of like a no-brainer at that point in time. So kind of going into, the actual business side of things. So I operate out of that. I also do, one-to-one training and group training there. So I kind of figured like up to 5 or 6 people would probably be like a sufficient group that would max me out for the space that I have. And then at that point, it's almost turning into group fitness if you get to more than that. Because, you got to think of too is like, how personal do you want your training? Like, do you, if you are having a lot of people, that also, you only got one trainer for, 2 pairs of eyes for all these people. So it'll cut off, your personalized help that you need. Some people don't need all that much. Some people need a little bit more. So that's kind of always, I kind of always think about that and what the goals are when determining those things. I've got a couple clients that I go to their house, and like I got a sandbag, I got some portable equipment. When like in the summer, like I've been utilizing like Park Point a little bit, which has been cool. So I've got a TRX and I can hook it up to basically anything. I've hooked it up to a tree for my MMA guy. And then, we would go run and things like that. So I kind of, very portable, especially, for the summertime. In Duluth is kind of unfortunate that we have like the large majority of the year not able to do that, but that's chill. And then basically kind of like the other operation of it is like I put everything in a Google document. So you get to, have all of your sessions and see what we do. And then I give you like resources, whether it be like nutrition recipes. I've got clients that are friends with me on my FitnessPal app and look into their nutrition a little bit too. That's kind of like the general thing that I do. I'm not really like particular to one style. Like I said, I have a TRX certification. I've got a yoga certification, working on that nutrition certification. So I can do a little bit of everything, and strength training is kind of like that and body weight training, I'd say, are my main things that people go to, but I can kind of program a little bit of everything, which I think makes me pretty diverse in the personal trainer world of things. And like one of the clients that I work with, like we would run from her house too. We'd do a little bit of that, come back, do a little bit of yoga. So it was just like, it kind of depends on the day and your goals. I can really work with that. My mission is like being fun, functional, and affordable. The main thing is that having that fun, and then, being functional to your goals, like whatever it is that you are going to do and adhere to and do on your own time without me, that's what will get you set up with. And then, I'll come back to like the pricing thing. Like I work with you. I have rates that I will charge, but at the same time, there's ways that I can, give you online resources, and so that we can make the most of whatever our time is together.
So what was the most challenging part about getting your business up and running and starting it?
Yeah, the most challenging part. Oh gosh, there's a challenge. It seems like every week sometimes. But honestly, I think, and still a challenge. Like obviously, just space is when you're servicing people that way. You gotta have the right space. Like I said, I think where I'm at is like a stepping stone. Obviously, my dream is to kind of have my own gym, and obviously like I have my own ideal setup that I'd like. But at the same time too is like just finding the right people and having them there with you, whether that be like your clients or it be like your business attorney that's going to set up your LLC for you because you want to get it done right, or somebody to work on your website. So I think, besides like space to operate out of, I'd say just the next thing would just be finding the right people, because there's also people that you're like, oh, like what their vision is for what I've been telling them is not in line with what like I see or what I'm asking for. So it's kind of, just constantly being like, okay, this is maybe not what I wanted, but now I know that. But I'd say those are probably the two main challenges.
What is the most rewarding part of being a personal trainer?
Okay, I think this one will kind of cycle back to like that one that I was talking about with the vulnerable ball, is just literally helping people. And I mean, lifting heavier weights is really cool, and people get really amped about that, which is good. Like you should, my whole thing is like, functional can be being strong too. You got to carry heavy things. You can't always rely on your trainer or your husband or whoever it is that's your strong person in your life or your goals. But I think honestly, it's just like seeing people like change a lifestyle. I've had, like one of my clients, like she went from like not logging food to being on like 100-day streak and being like, how do I, add more onto this? And you don't know which way you're gonna help people. Sometimes it's straight up just motivating them. Like they're like, I feel so good with your positive attitude towards this that like you get in my head and like motivate me to do this on my own. And it's just like, I told you I would get, like, I told you you'd hear me say like chest up, shoulders back, push your hips back for that deadlift. So it's like, so you never know like what people are going to take from you. So you really have to just be you, and, have the goal of whatever your business is going to be, even if it's not like a fitness professional, whatever your goal is just, try and keep it broad. Like my whole thing was to help people, and then I kind of added on the fun, functional, affordable thing. But it was like, wow, you see that goal, all those things kind of encompass, and you're like, that's really cool to just see, in many shapes and forms, and you never know what it's going to be.
How do you build professional relationships and convert them into paying clients?
Yeah, for sure. So I think you're building the professional relationship is you need to just get out there in front of people, whether that is, and I guess these would be my suggestions, is first join a networking group and just meeting people, going to networking events. Maybe it's, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a structured networking event. Like I saw something that kind of thought would be cool is there was like a film festival for like trail running. I'm like, that'd be so cool to like talk to people about running. You know what I mean? So it can be, and like, I mean, there's a lot of breweries around that, you never know where, depending on what your business is, you never know who you could reach on that. So I would just consider all those things like a little bit of like your networking piece. So that's the first part of that professional building. The next part I would say is, just being yourself. So, as long as you are, portraying what you're trying to portray, whether you're, your business in that one, you want people to see your genuine self. So that kind of helps people get invested in you. And then before long, they're kind of like, oh, like I could really use this or that. And And then I would say too is so I'm trying to keep my thoughts in the line here is giving your time, for every for every new client, I give a free personal training session. So that's one way that like people get to test drive your, like your networking, that genuine self that I was talking about. It kind of at first is like, well, I don't really have the resources to, give so much, but there's something that you have to give back to. Like, I mean, I'm a huge try it before you buy it person. And turns out I might not even want you as a client. You know what I mean? Like, I might think like you actually need this person, and I would much rather refer you to that trainer because I know that they can really help you with that. And then, somewhere down the line, they might actually come back to you and be like, okay, now I'm ready for nutrition. Or that trainer might refer you back for the nutrition piece. You know what I mean? So giving the time would be I would say like that. I mean, if we wrap it up into three things, would just, be that last third thing is like to give them that chance to try it before they buy it. And then at that point, you can make that sale of like, this is what I do. You got the example on the line, you got, your rates or whatever it is, be ready for the sell on that. Because that's what people will ask for is like, for a while I was like, I only, I didn't have my rates out to the public or whatever. So it was like, I kind of had to like tell them. So having that professional piece of like how you're like, do you take card or do you take cash? Do you take check? So for me, it's cash and check. I don't have a card reader, but, people are fine with that, and you ask like, is that convenient for you? If you like, price, and especially for me, for the service is like, Tuesday, 4:30 PM, let me know when it doesn't work, but otherwise we're planning on doing Tuesdays, 4 PM until we do 8 or 12 sessions. And this is the cost. And that way it's clear. And they know what to expect. And I think that just, like they have a well-rounding of your relationship. And then that's where the referral kind of comes in again too, is like you've provided a consistent and well-rounded service to them. And they're like, okay, like I know this person that's going to benefit. But that piece is really hard to figure out because you go through the trial and error and not be like don't be afraid to fail. Like you're going to have terrible conversation with somebody and you're going to be like, why the heck did I describe my business that way? Like, that is not what I do. Or like that person, like totally was the wrong person to sell to. And you kind of will like get a better idea of that. And that's part of the process. And I think it's kind of fun. Like, I mean, you gotta fail a little bit to get to that big sell of like, once you do, get that client, it's like, okay, like that was what I've worked for, you know what I mean? So I guess, and like I'd say, and then segueing this to your wrap up, I would say is like the biggest key takeaway I would say is be persistent. That's a huge thing in my thing. My like whole like tag and kind of line is like persistence transforms. So you can take that in many directions, but persistence just being, consistent on that hard work and continuing through that will lead to, where you want to get. And I think that's, the most important piece of everything that like I'm saying out to that is just like, stick with it. You're going to fail. Don't be afraid of that. It's going to be hard. And times you're gonna be questioned whether or not you even want to do it, and like if it's gonna go anywhere. But as long as you keep working towards it and stay positive, like you'll get your way in the end, and you'll find the right people. They will come to you as long as you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's some great insights. Well, we're halfway through now, so we're gonna switch over a little bit more, talking about some kind of health and wellness stuff. How does health and wellness and fitness play a role, like personally, in being successful in your journey?
Yeah, so I think it makes me better just because I'm constantly influenced to try new things and be outside my box. Like I always find it hard to do, like you see something online and then you're like, I should like try that with this person because that goes really towards their goals. And then you try and replicate what you saw with somebody, and if you don't do it, it fails miserably. Like you're like, you just don't look like that person in the video, and you're like, oh yeah, I should have tried this first. So I really think that it opens your comfort zone up to trying a lot of new things. And I mean, like, I think one of the biggest examples of this recently would be like, just like all these like plant-based things coming out. Like you got the Game Changers documentary, and, like that, you get people talking about that. And then, that's not for long before you know somebody that's like, yeah, I'm going to go like, or I'm cutting out this, or I'm like doing that. And, that was one thing that kind of influenced me. It was like, all right, like, I'm going to try this for myself. Like, what does this look like? And what are the obstacles with that? And I found like that, making that one plant-based meal a week, at least as a stepping point, is not going to kill my protein goal. Like I'll be fine without the meat in there. But I realized that, okay, so for somebody who doesn't like meat, and if I have them as a client and they're asking me for nutrition, I can kind of explain to them like, other things like, obviously like a protein supplementation, or like I realize like now, instead of getting my protein sources from like relying on it for meat, like figuring out how I can utilize different beans and like maybe like chicken sausage, or just a little bit different meats that I wasn't using before that might be, healthier. I'm not saying chicken sausage is healthier, but like just different things, you change up different things, and that can be, go into exercises as well. But I think that helped me like really be like, I'm not just doing bodybuilding, I'm not just doing marathon running. You open up to just other avenues that, people kind of influence on you, because you're like, I don't want to put myself in that box of just being the guy that can lift heavy weights, and help people with that, because people, referring you to that, they might refer you in that way. And if you aren't able to properly, adhere to, go to, kind of where the industry is going a little bit while keeping in your lane, I was just kind of look at it as you don't want to be put in that box, because that might turn a potential client off, even if it's not true and somebody was trying to refer you. So, but yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about my clients is like, they see that I'm doing different stuff. So they're like, you do this, he does this, you guys would probably be a good match. So it kind of works out in that way, which is kind of something I didn't expect, I guess, when you were working with people, and like how you get influenced, through other people.
Yeah, you did a triathlon not too long ago, didn't you?
Yep,
right?
Yep. This summer, first started a business, first year in business, did a first grandma's marathon, and then did my first triathlon.
Yeah.
And like honestly, the marathon was kind of planned, but honestly, the business thing was just kind of like popped up. I had the website, and then the triathlon, our fellow personal trainer Alyssa, like she came up to me, she's like, "I'm doing this. You've been swimming, do it." And I was just kind of like, what? and I was like, oh, and I started asking questions, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny. Like, that comes back to the people thing. Like just, be open to other people's, perceptions of things, and you might get influenced to that as a positive thing, rather than like, oh, I can't swim, or I'm afraid of this, or I'm afraid of that. It's like, well, it might be uncomfortable, but get comfortable in the uncomfortable has been my big theme for a little while. So it helps in that whole like being an entrepreneur and being better yourself.
Speaking of that, one of my goals that I have for 2020 is to push myself outside of my comfort zone at least once every day in some way.
Hey, dude, that's a good goal, man.
Yeah.
And that's an every day, like, so I always think too is like, people get afraid to fail, and like, you're going to make a mistake every day. Like, you know what I mean? It might be small, as long as you're not making huge mistakes every day, like, but like, to some degree, you got to make a huge mistake to learn sometimes.
Yeah.
But I like that, because it strengthens your capacity to like adapt to your environment and fail. Because that's a good thing. You learn from that. I always tell people, like, especially logging food, you're going to fail. Or like strength training, people, like clients, they get all like, I didn't get that rep. Like, and I'm like, that's good. Like, you failed. Congrats. And they're like so confused. I'm like, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I like to think of things as if you're comfortable, you're probably not going on the right path, and if you're uncomfortable, you're probably doing something right and going in the right direction. At least most scenarios.
Right, to some degree. Yeah, for sure. Or if you're comfortable, you might be just staying the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and I think life's about adapting. And just every year trends change and things change, people change. So as long as you can kind of, adapt in your own way, I think that getting uncomfortable every day is a good thing.
Yeah. Do you have some non-traditional workout that you could share that somebody like that is really busy, maybe a student in college that's trying to work on their own business, maybe a way that they can work out with a limited schedule?
Yeah, dude, I like that one a lot. I like that question. So like, I honestly think to simplify it down, like if you're busy, to do like less but more at the same time. So like do less exercises but do them like more total body stuff. So one of the fitness guys I follow, BJ Gador, he's like big on this, like you do 3 full body workouts every week, 52 weeks in the year, and you will see the like minimum amount of gains that like, to look good or, be at your best fitness. I can't remember exactly how he puts that, but I mean, it's true. A lot of the stuff like on some of my YouTube, I got some of like dumbbell ones where it's quick, where it's like you're one of my favorites is like maybe you do a squat, and then at the top of the squat, you curl, then maybe you deadlift, and then you do a tricep kickback. You're hitting your legs and your arms at the same time. Like, how cool is that? And it's not like there's a lot of other things, you can do, obviously. And I would say prioritize for your goals. So if it is like, getting your arms better, then, you're going to be sticking arms with large muscle groups. But I would always just say, do your large muscle groups and do them, together, as long as that agrees with, I know I do some of that total body stuff with some of my clients. It makes them a little uncomfortable in a bad way. Like it makes them like, I can't do this, to the point where they don't want to do it. So you kind of got to figure out, but I always say like, you just want to like, don't reinvent the wheel. Just do the most that you can do within a short period of time, large muscle groups. Maybe you switch up hand, foot position, things like that. Like I think good old like body weight, like your plank, bird dog, glute bridge, dead bug, and all the other little bit of core ones that you can do. You can play around with those so heavy and get so many different moves in there that you honestly like don't need to pick up weights or any of that. So especially if you're busy and you're trying to prioritize getting your business off the ground, I think you need anywhere between like 15 and 20 minutes to yourself, so that you get the workout and like a stretch or something in there, just to clear your head, to go back to thinking that in depth. Like think about your business is tough. Like you got a lot of different components in there. So you just definitely need that little bit of a break to just reset and then come back to it. And most people, I think, would feel much more refreshed, rather than like some people associate like doing that exercise like, oh man, that was tough, I have no energy now. But I think actually it's the reverse. I think actually like that, getting that heart rate up and then having to relax, you get that clarity. And it just, I've been trying to work out before I go to my clients, because it and like that means like early morning workouts. Usually my 5:30 in the morning clients, I don't work out before them, but yeah. I'll work out after, because the mid-morning ones will benefit a little more from that. But and sometimes with those clients I get a little bit of like stretching in the morning and like waking up and things like that. But I always think that just kind of helps you, like you've done something for yourself personally, and then that allows you to like get your brain ready for servicing everything, other aspects that you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. And to swing back to some of those like body weight exercises that you were saying, I really agree with you that those sometimes are going to be even more time effective than going to a gym and lifting weights, because you don't have to go to a gym. You can stick in your dorm room, stick in your house, and cut down on your time by not traveling for a half hour to and from a gym, and just doing your workouts in that half hour period of time.
Yes.
How would you say that involving fitness into your life can make you a more successful entrepreneur or just person in general?
Yeah, I think I think it opens you up to different things, especially if you're on, social media and you try something. And I'd say it comes back to your goal of being uncomfortable. Like the exercise is like when you first initially hold the plank, it's uncomfortable, like until you get that foundation. And that's why I think, doing those minimum things, you have a base foundation of something to go off of. Like you don't just start, like I didn't just start running a marathon or doing a triathlon by just being like, I'm going to do this. I started by like running 2 miles, and then I ran 5 miles, and then I ran 10 miles, and then I did a half marathon. I was like, okay, these are your foundations. So I always think of that as like, doing those basic of the fitness, or like doing things that like you relate to from other people. I think that helps you as like an entrepreneur because you're doing your research. I think you're opening your possibilities to other things that maybe made you uncomfortable before, that now that you've done it maybe 3 times, it's not going to be comfortable the first or second time maybe, but the third time you'd be like, oh, I kind of get this feeling. I've been there before. And I think that's where like it's the most important part, is just that you're trying something new. And I think life's really important about that because, that's going to come back to kind of what I've been saying is like you can adapt to new things easier when you're trying new things more frequently. It makes it a little less anxiety, makes it a little less uncomfortable. You're not going to be like, dang, I failed. You're going to be like, all right, I failed, but next time, man, that thing is I'm going to get that. Like, I'm going to get that for real. It's mine.
So we're going to move on to our last section of the interview, which is the Fast 5 section. So I'm going to ask 5 questions. We're just going to go through them one by one, kind of rapid fire. So here we are. The first question is, what is the most valuable class or course that you have taken?
Okay, I'm going to try and answer this one quickly. But it might get long. So I kind of got 2. My personal trainer certification like really opened me up because I think up until that point, I was kind of just mindlessly doing reps. And it was just like, okay, I need to do 3 sets of 10, 135 bench press, and then I'll be happy and I'll move on. But the trainer, he actually was like, he went us into the gym and he was like, what muscles am I using? What is the muscle action? And it was just like, all of a sudden, I just like, my mind exploded. Like, I was just like, whoa, I never, like, I mean, you're working your chest and your triceps when you're bench pressing, but it was like, I didn't think of like elbow extension. I didn't think of like the actual mind muscle connection. So that was huge for me because I noticed like directly after that training that my workouts were like a different thing, like forever. The other thing I would say would be the course would be exercise physiology, because I learned the depths of the body within that, because not only do you have to know where things are with the anatomy, you have to know how they function. And then it goes into a deeper level of like, like how your blood's going around and what little energy systems are going on to make the muscle contract. And like that precursors into like, what happens when it's not a good thing that you're short of breath or you're lightheaded or like, so it just kind of was like, oh, okay, these are the things that you think about with exercise on like the deep level as a professional to make sure that it's like you're going to be successful. Like you're not going to ruin yourself or ruin your clients. So that one was one that was like, okay, it kind of, again, opened my mind up to the deepness of like where exercise is at, rather than just going to all sets and reps and weight, because there's way more depth to it.
Yeah. I will say that there's a large gap between how a fitness professional thinks about working out and how a gym rat, your average Joe, thinks about working out. They're like on 2 different worlds.
Yeah, I know, it is funny. And you see it in the gym too, and you're just oof. I don't know, man.
All right, let's move on to the second question. What is one book that you would recommend?
Okay, so I got 2 for this one too. I read a lot of fitness stuff, so I wanted to have 2 options. So, and this one does only really apply to people that are like running. So this one's Ready to Run by Kelly Starrett. He's a physical therapist, and it like has all of these, like, I mean, it's not maybe just for runners either, but like it has like, like talks about all the movements that you do with running, and like it'll go into like squat positioning because, in a squat, things like that are similar to running. He's got like foam rolling and all sorts of different like little like compression, like recovery things in there. And it just like, I was like, wow, this book hit everything running wise for me. The other thing is the other one's actually an audio book. I guess it was, I think it's like 6 hours long, 7 hours long. It's called The Sales Bible by Jeffrey Gitomer. I don't know I don't have any business education. So all sorts of things, like it can be really easy to blow my mind that way, where it's like, I never thought of that. And it's like, well, why would you think of that? You think of exercise, which is just the way that, like, that's why I'm in the business I am. And I got, like I said, I got people for that. And you need people for that. You should focus on doing what you can do. And it kind of helped me actually figure out, like, I should outsource this, or I should think about how I can create a team with that. Or so that one, it was more than just sales. I mean, it was a lot of like how to sell people, how to like get people invested in you. But that one was really cool. I spent a lot of I made sure I was like doing a 2-hour car ride or longer to listen to that. And I was just kind of like, wow, this is making me think on such an in-depth level that is like really, really cool. And I like that stuff where it's like, I never thought about that or like had that thinking.
Great recommendation. Question number 3, what is one business tool that you would recommend?
Okay, so this one, this gets in my scope. I would just say like your Google Analytics, Google My Business for one thing is a huge thing that, but I would say finding someone for that is a business tool that you would need if you're a fitness professional, because I didn't know, I'm still working with this, and I got, multiple people that are like, do this, do that. And they all say different things. Like, it's great because my small business development center guy is like, look at your keywords. And we went in and we did that. And the other person's like, look at your Google Analytics. These are the people in the cities that are looking at you. Does that make sense? This is your age range. And it's like, okay, these are the people that I like sent my website to. And it's like, okay, so you see the ripple effects of that. On YouTube, I'm trying to get into it a little bit more too, because it's like, wow, that video has 40 views, not a whole lot. But I mean, when you're talking, the other ones have like 10 or 3, you're like, why is this content like that they're watching? So I think it's probably the analytics is the part, I guess, that I'm talking about the most. That's the most important, is just look at who your audience is. And that can be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, should be all of them, Google for sure. And it just gives you insight and kind of helps you create content too, I think, is like, okay, if I'm portraying this to 24 or like 20-year-olds, then it's going to be 20-year-old content. I'm going to portray this to like people I'm trying to sell to in their 30s and 50s. It's probably going to be a lot more professional, like not like flexing, and like it's going to be like value, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So different people want different things, and you kind of get that insight on there.
Yep. All right. Question number 4. How do you personally keep on schedule with all the things that you have going on?
Yeah, man. They don't always work, but Post-its. Post-its. You get, and then you lose one and you find it and you're like, oh, that was like 2 weeks ago. That still is not done. But that Google Calendar is actually, well, that's probably bigger than Post-its, I would say. Let's break this up. Post-its is like a short, like, you need to do this either today or like I'll write a date on it, like for maybe the week if I have a lot on there. Just kind of depends on the time frame. Google Calendar, just for like scheduling, like everything in there is scheduling. So that way, if somebody's like, hey, are you available at 10 a.m. Friday? I'm like, hold on. And I click in there, whether that's on the phone or through text or through person. Or person to person, like right away you're there, you understand, and that one is a huge lifesaver. But as a personal trainer or fitness professional, you really, I think that one of the biggest tips I can give is like, you need to set a schedule. Otherwise you can get yourself in a place where you feel negatively towards your schedule, and that's not a good thing. You should have time for yourself. Figure that out too, and be ready for when it changes. Whether one of the biggest things is I can say with that is having your supplements like in containers, whether you're taking protein bars, snacks, and having workout clothes with you at any time, because you just might have to do your workout this time and not that time. And that can change every day of the week, or it can change 2 days of the week or no days of the week. And you don't know, especially as a fitness professional, you are not a 9-to-5 job. So you should accept that. And if you want that, I would say you might want to think of how you can make it a 9-to-5, because especially personal training and group fitness is outside of business hours for your clients. Most of the time.
All right. So our last question here is, when do you feel most productive?
Yeah, this one's a hard one. I go through, I feel like it's a roller coaster for me, which is weird because I think some people maybe get their best thoughts when they're reading a book or listening to a podcast or walking on the treadmill. Mine, I'm influenced by my environment a lot. So sometimes I've had inspiration at a party, or I've had inspiration when I'm exerted myself on a long run, all of a sudden I just start getting these influx of thoughts, or in the middle of a workout. Usually I try to focus on my muscles then, less strength training, but it has happened, and that's when you have notes on your phone to quick write some stuff down if you need to. But I'd say too is if I'm trying to really be productive in a thinking space, I try at night. Maybe it's before my I do a nightly stretching routine, and I try and think of it around that time when it's somewhere that I'm really centralizing my thoughts on myself. So that way those random things are not just random, this is a great idea. I call those Kanye West ideas. Because it just is no filter, out in the head or out in the world. So I try and focus on some of the other productivity, when I focus on myself, my thoughts are clear and they're in a zone rather than just flying out like fireworks. So I kind of got two answers for that one too, I guess.
Since you already gave us your one main takeaway, I'll ask you, where can the audience find more about you and your business? Yeah,
so on YouTube right now, I'm just Blake Peters. I got some videos on there for your quick, easy routines. That's kind of where my stuff is right now. My business page on Facebook and Instagram is just BP HealthxFitness. And then my website's easy on there too, is just bphealthxfitness.com. So I do have a little bit of, I'm still in the process of kind of updating that website, and I got some cool things for that coming this year. And so you get a little bit of the content to kind of see what I do on there. And I'm excited for the Instagram and the Facebook, because I've finally gotten I think my content structure down, which has been a huge barrier for me, because I'm just I don't know marketing. I got people that suggest things to me, and they're helping me out with that, which I'm so grateful for. So I'm excited for that. The social should be a really fun place for viewers to get a little piece of me. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Cam. You're the man.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to hear it and send people to it.
I'm really glad that I got to share Blake's story with you guys. Thanks for being on the show again, Blake. And thank you for everyone listening right now. I truly appreciate your support in this journey. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you would like to hear some more amazing entrepreneurial stories and advice. If you're listening and you are interested in finding out more about the Student Built Startups podcast, I encourage you to head over to studentbuiltstartups.com and go check out all of our content that we have uploaded there. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next episode.